You probably heard of long-distance through hikes. Maybe you've done one yourself, like the Appalachian Trail, Vermont's Long Trail. In the Adirondacks, we have the Northville Placid Trail. There are also long-distance paddling routes where you can travel by canoe or kayak and lots of carries 4 months. One that cuts through the Adirondack Park all the way up to Maine is turning 25 years old. The story of the Northern Forest Canoe Trail on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from the Wild Center in Tupper Lake, dedicated to strengthening visitors' connections to the natural world. More at wildcenter.org.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Monday, October 6th. First up, Governor Kathy Hochul has named a new chair of the Adirondack Park Agency board. Mark Hall has served on the APA board since 2020. He was first appointed by former Governor Andrew Cuomo. In a press release, Hochul said Hall has been working tirelessly for the North Country for decades and would excel as APA board chair. Hall grew up in southern St. Lawrence County and still lives in Star Lake. He served as the town supervisor of fine for 8 years and is now the town's water superintendent. Hall's appointment as APA board chair fills a void left by former board chair John Ernst, who retired from the role in June. In the governor's press release, Hall said he plans to continue the APA's, quote, dual commitment to protecting the environment and supporting communities. The APA's next monthly board meeting is this Thursday. The North Country's local Planned Parenthood is looking to fundraise $100,000 in the next 2 months. That's after President Donald Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill Act cut off Medicaid reimbursement from Planned Parenthood health centers. A recent court decision upheld that action. Amy Feiereisel has more.
Crystal Collette is the president of Planned Parenthood of the North Country, New York. She told NCPR earlier this summer that it will keep providing care no matter what.
At all Planned Parenthoods in New York State, we're going to continue seeing Medicaid patients, providing them care and not charging them for their care.
In the North Country, less than 5% of visits to Planned Parenthood last year concerned abortions. Most visits were for things like cancer and chlamydia screenings and pregnancy and HIV tests. But none of that is covered now for Medicaid recipients, who make up half of the region's Planned Parenthood patients. Collette told the Sun Community News that, quote, without reimbursement, we are now absorbing the full cost of care for thousands of patients, and we simply cannot sustain that alone, end quote. Planned Parenthood of the North Country is seeking to fundraise $100,000 by December 1st, so it can continue to provide care at no cost to Medicaid patients in Jefferson, Lewis, St. Lawrence, Clinton, Essex, and Franklin counties. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio.
The Northern Forest Canoe Trail, which stretches from Old Forge, here in the Adirondacks, all the way up to northern Maine, was created 25 years ago. It stitches together lakes, rivers, and carries across mostly private land. The NFCT is also a nonprofit that now hosts races like the 90-miler Adirondack Canoe Classic that happened last month. Emily Russell went out on the water to learn more about the trail and its mission.
I'm standing on the edge of Lower Saranac Lake with Brandon DeVito.
Let's find you a paddle.
DeVito is my guide today. He's also vice chair of the Northern Forest Canoe Trail.
I think we'll give you the taller one.
Great.
Yeah.
Lower Saranac Lake is one of more than 80 waterways that make up the NFCT. And what's the plan?
So we're going to put in here, and then we're going to ride up through Ampersand Bay. We're going to hug the North Shore, and then probably turn up into the Fish Creek area.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay.
We slide the canoe into the water. As we hug the shore, the wind picks up a bit. The water laps against the bow of the boat. I'm not a big paddler, so it takes me some time to find my rhythm out here. DeVito, on the other hand, lives to paddle and loves being out on the water.
Looking out at that white pine or the way the grasses flow in the breeze, it's just a great way to relax and reconnect with nature.
The Northern Forest Canoe Trail isn't like a contiguous hiking trail. Instead, it's a string of rivers, lakes, streams, and ponds. They're connected by more than 65 portages, places where paddlers need to walk their boats from one waterway to another. The idea for the trail came from 3 paddlers who were passionate about connecting indigenous waterways. They pitched the idea to Kay Henry, who owned a canoe company at the time.
They decided that they weren't trail builders. They enjoyed the research, so they would give us their work to use if we would like to get the trail up and going.
Henry and her husband, Rob Center, sold the canoe company and focused full-time on the NFCT. One big hurdle was getting communities on board, since much of the trail passes through private land. Center believed that paddlers would give a little boost to businesses along the way. As the trail grew in popularity in those early years, Center says that belief became reality.
These people began to notice these travelers on the Northern Forest Canoe Trail, and these were a lot of fun people that the locals got to meet. And then the small business people began to go, wow, they do spend money.
Only about 300 paddlers have ever completed the entire 740-mile route, but thousands more paddle smaller sections every year. Carrie Thomas took over the nonprofit more than a decade ago.
Not everyone is a whitewater paddler. Not everyone loves flat water. Not everyone even wants to go on an overnight canoe trip. But many, many, many people want to paddle either the waterways of their backyard or the waterways of a particular part of the region.
The NFCT helps maintain the portages and campsites along the trail. For that work, it partners with state agencies like the DEC and the Maine Bureau of Parks and Lands. The nonprofit also hosts an annual paddling symposium in the Adirondacks and some races, like the 90-miler Adirondack Canoe Classic. The nonprofit acquired the race 4 years ago from longtime organizers Brian and Grace McDonald from Lake Clear. Thomas said it felt like a natural step.
It just fit really squarely with our mission and with the goals that we had for bringing people together, on the water and in these communities. And as much work as it is, it brings so much joy and so much benefit to the community that it's well worth it.
Thomas believes deeply in the idea that the more people who get out on the water, the more people will care and work to protect those waterways. She says that's why the NFCT matters.
You protect what you love. And if you don't fall in love with these landscapes, you're never going to know why people want you to protect them. You're never going to make those decisions.
The few times of year that I go paddling, I'm always reminded of how slow and intentional the experience can be, how much more I notice around me. As Brandon DeVito and I make our way up Fish Creek, I see a deer snacking in the tall grass.
You see it? It's moving around. It's like, I saw its little, oh, there it is. Its head's popping up.
A red-winged blackbird chirps from the trees above us. DeVito points out some of the plants growing up from the creek bed.
These yellow flowers tucked in amongst the lily pad looking things, they're called bladderworts. It's actually a carnivorous flower that eats bugs.
This waterway off Lower Saranac Lake isn't actually part of the Northern Forest Canoe Trail, but DeVito says it's these little excursions that make the longer journey so special.
If you followed the trail end to end, yeah, you can do it in 740 miles, but I think many people enjoy those side trips, or maybe staying overnight in a town, or maybe it's, exploring a random creek that looks like it's something cool up there. You never know until you try.
As we're about to turn back and paddle home, we notice more movement in the trees. A bald eagle launches itself from a branch and soars above our boat and farther up the creek. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio on Lower Saranac Lake.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Eddie Lawrence of Saranac Lake and Oscar Sarmiento of Potsdam. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.